guys, I'm Brad, AE4VJ, your technical coordinator for the South Carolina section of the ARRL, and today we're going to be talking about JTAlert. We talked about WSJT-X last time. This time we're going to do JTAlert, a little bit of a companion. It's made by somebody else, but it really does help out with automating it, getting into your regular electronic log. WSJT-X creates an ADIF file, but then you got to go and actually import that and keep up with that every time you work somebody new or when you get done. And that can be a hassle. Sometimes you forget. I forgot. And then you miss stuff you worked and stuff you need. But JTAlert, one of the big things, why I found it was because I wanted to automate it, the logging from when I work guys on FT8 to get into HRD Logbook. And it did exactly what it says, a small program, easy to set up. And then I found out it does a lot more stuff, and we're going to get into that. So, I mean, it'll help you track things you've worked, things you need, visual and audio alerts for stuff wanted by band and mode for prefix, grid, state, DXCC, CQ zone, CQ marathon, and continents. And it also works with DXKeeper, ACLog, Log 4OM, HRD version 5 and up, MixW, and that gives you the CSV. And it also will do another standard ADIF. So you'll end up getting WSJT-X creates an ADIF, and then JTAlert will also create you an ADIF. So you end up getting several copies of it. And so if something happens, you're not going to lose anything. You'll always be able to go back and find it if you need to import it, the old-fashioned way you can. And that's all great. Having too much of that is not necessarily a bad thing, because you always want to have some backups and anything that you feel that's important. And for ham radio, this is important. It will also work with QRZ and HamQTH, QRZ with the paid service like the XML, which I suggest most people I talk to, if they're using a logbook that will work with QRZ, to go ahead and pay. I think it's like $20 a year or something. It's low, and what you end up getting is your logbook can go and query QRZ, and it will give you back all of everything that's on QRZ, name, address, location, and a whole bunch of other stuff, CQ zone, ITU zone, and all that stuff. And all that stuff's populated into HRD Log or whatever logbook you're using, and fills out all those fields so you can actually just go back to your log and look up that stuff instead of having to type in each individual call sign into QRZ. But JTAlert also works with HamQTH, which is a free service. And I've looked at the website a couple of times. Excuse me. And it's not bad. It's not QRZ, but it would be the next best thing. And it's still a whole lot easier than going to the FCC website and trying to query that. And that's only going to work for domestic stuff. Your DX stuff's not going to be in the FCC database. And also another thing JTAlerts will do, will send to hamspots.net, which is similar to kind of like a DX cluster, and it does some other stuff. We can get into that later. So we're going to get into it, show you how to kind of set it up, get started, get your feet wet, and play around with it. And I'll show you some of the other stuff it does. One thing it does, and when we talk about this, is it gives you the ability to, if somebody else is using JTAlert, to instant message them. So if you're having a hard time getting them, you can send them a quick message, and when you pop up the message window, it will tell you if they're online or not. And if it does, a little green thing pops up, says online, then they're also using JTAlert. So a lot of people seem to be using it more than there were when I started with it, which, what are we talking, 8-9 months ago, really, when FT8 started getting hot, maybe a year ago, if it's been that long. Time goes by so fast. So now I know you hear that, and the first time I realized it, at face value, you kind of think, is that cheating? And the more I thought about it is, I don't think it is. If you go through and look, like I know some guys that work meter scatter, and they go to a website to schedule these skids. And, you know, if you can do that, and they're doing all that over email or whatever through that website, what's the difference? So, you know, if they can hear you, they can hear you. If they can't, they can't. You know, if you say, hey, I really need you for something, they might try a little bit harder. And, you know, the same thing goes for you. If somebody messages you, you might try a little bit harder to help them out. So, you know, there's can be some discussion about that. Discussion isn't a bad thing, but I wouldn't get too worked up about it at this point. And I did mention it to somebody on the CDXA repeater, I don't know, maybe a week ago. And yeah, the first thing he said, it does sound like cheating. Nah, I don't think so. But, you know, that's up to you. You don't have to use that if you don't want it. So don't not use the program because of that reason. And if you already have something else you like, that's fine. Feel free to use that. But I like it. It also gives you a lot of good, colorful graphical representation. And another thing I like, it will tell you the state or country next to the call sign. And so if you're not, you know, an avid DXer that knows every prefix that belongs to every country, I don't. I know guys that do. I'm not one of them. But being able to look it up or have something to give that to you is a big help. So let's get into it. We're going to spin around here. We'll play a little radio. We'll work a little FT8 demo in JTAlert after we get it set up and show you kind of how it works. It's pretty neat. I think you'll like it. All right. All right, guys, here we are. We have WSJT-X open. We have HRD open. Down here you have, there's the rig control, rotor control, and the logbook, which we see back here. It's WSJT-X. There's the waterfall. And down here is JTAlert. I have it displaying 4 lines by default. I think it's only 2, but you can have up to 4. So when you go to install it, you're going to have the option. There's be a box that pops up in the wizard, and you can install up to 4 different versions at the same time. Really, if you're just using WSJT-X, all you need is JTAlert X, and this talks directly to here. So once you get that installed, and it's real easy, you run it, you download that from hamapps.com. And there it is. You go through there. You get a little bit of description, kind of how it looks. And the install instructions is pretty easy. You're going to want the JTAlert. You want to download that. It's only 6 meg. It's not a lot. And then I would also download the Callsign Database. It'll make things a little bit easier. The sounds, you don't have to install that or download it. It just gives you some default sounds for some of the alerts to pop up, and you may or may not want to use those. You get some visual alerts down here, like you see that, and we'll go through all that. But you see, they'd only pop up for the duration of the receive, so that's the only downfall. Sometimes I'd like to have it a little bit longer because you don't have a long time to go through and look through all that. Once you get it loaded and you get it running, you'll need WSJT-X running first, and then start this, and they'll start talking. Now let's go through the settings. So you're just going to click settings, and we're going to go, since we're just starting it up, manage settings, and it's going to read them. Takes it a second. And here we are. So this is the quick enable, disable audio and visual alerts for each of these things. So after you get them set up, you don't have to go into each individual one, turn them on and off if you want. You can do it from one screen, which is nice. You're probably going to want LOTW. You might want this.
The band activity display. Yeah, some visual alerts on that would be nice. The tooltip, you can show that, and we want to show distance in miles and on all trigger alerts. So first of all, you're going to set up your own call sign. This is your own call sign alert. I'd like to do that. And that way, if somebody calls you, you'll actually get an alert. You'll know it. So that's pretty easy. You can do a second call sign if you want, if you have one of those. CQ and QRZ, you can enable those alerts. So anytime there's a CQ, you'll get an alert. You can get, set this up here for a specific WAV file, and you'll get a visual. I've pretty much used all the default stuff, mostly because there's a lot of stuff already going on, and I'm not sitting here really doing too terribly much other stuff. If I'm playing radio, I'm playing radio, so I'm going to be taking a look at it. So your wanted prefix, if you're looking for a specific prefix, you can enable those alerts. And these are all the prefixes, and you can do it by individual band. I uncheck the 6 and 2 because I don't do anything on really those bands. If you're not on those bands, you're probably not going to see them anyway. And you can change it just by individual mode, any digital mode, or just one of these three, or any of these in WSJT-X. And that's pretty much all the same for all of these alerts. If you're doing the CQ marathon, you can set all that up right in here. Stuff not wanted, stuff wanted. There's what you currently have. That's after you do reading of the logbook, and we'll get into that. U.S. state, if you're looking for worked all states, you might want some of those to pop up on some of the ones that you need, and that can be handy for that. I just find it's a prefix. It's going to be going off almost all the time. So I don't need an alert for that. Same thing, individual bands. You can check what you need. The reason some of these are unchecked are because I already have them confirmed on this band that we're on. We're on 40 meters right now, which you can see right there. Specific wanted DXCC. You may want to do that if you're trying to get DXCC on digital. So you can do that and do it for individual bands or just any specific ones you want. Now, by default, if you turn them on, you're going to want all of them. And, I've got 41 on 40 meters. So you can do it by individual band or you can do it by any band. I got 96 total, but probably individual band. Continents, same deal. CQ zones, that you may want to look at. I know that's kind of a big DX thing, is there's CQ zones. And the grid squares, especially, and now they have this fabulous option for the enable the grid chase alerts. So, if you want to check that, so if somebody's calling your grid, you may want to do that so you can help them out. Just be nice. Same thing there. Now the miscellaneous stuff, if you want to ignore specific call sign, if they're lit or whatever, you can put that in there. Hopefully you won't have to run into that. Or if it's a beacon, you could probably ignore that. You're not going to want an alert on a beacon. But it will be nice to see, but I don't know if you need a specific alert for it. If you know of a call sign you specifically want, you want an alert for that, you can do that here. And it supports wildcards, and you can see the help file to get deeper into that. Decode a word, looking for a specific word. I'm not sure how much this is going to be helpful, mostly because you see what's going on over here. It's, if it's a CQ, it's a CQ, a call sign, and a grid square. If it's an exchange, a couple of call signs, and a report, and then a 73. So there's not a lot of room to put extra stuff in there. I guess if they're doing some other messages, you could. So we have some new stuff here. The end of a transmit or receive period and then the start of a TX period, these two, I would not enable those because every 15 seconds the thing's going to go nuts. And I don't think if you're in here messing around every 15 seconds if you need a ding. This is pretty much modes, or you turn the volume down. You know, you might have it up a little bit just to hear stuff going on, but it's I wouldn't enable those. If you want it, go right ahead. If that's your thing, that's cool. The RX frequency, I don't know if we really need an alert on that. It's one of those things, I guess, if you can do it, you can, you know, include it, but we don't really care because we're not paying too much. Unless you're calling a CQ, you're not going to be looking too terribly much up here at the waterfall. You're going to be down here and down here. So, you know, who cares where they are? If you see somebody, go for them. TX Watchdog, you can enable that if you want. That might be handy to have in case something goes crazy. Now, the out of shack, that's a thing where down here, you can actually send messages to people. And if they're using JTAlert, they will get them and they can message you back. At face value, the first time I saw that, I'm like, well, isn't that kind of like cheating? Then I thought about it for a few minutes. I said, well, I know people that run Meteor Scatter, and they schedule QSOs for that, for stuff they need. So there's not really much difference. You know, if you're having a hard time working a guy, if something you need, you can send them a message. Hey, I need this for whatever, you know, worked all states or yada, yada. And if he's using JTAlert, they're pretty good. The guys I've run into said, yeah, give me just a couple of minutes and they'll usually find a clear frequency. And I said, I'm going to call you here. And it's worked out for me for the few times I've had to use it. Or if you just need to, you know, if you work a guy and you want to send a message, hey, I really appreciate that. You know, I needed it for some award. You know, you can do that. That's a nice thing to do. User defined alerts. Yeah, you can do that where it launches something if you want. No alert. Yeah. Alert priority. So you can prioritize after if you set the alerts up, you know, which one do you want to hear first? And you can play the highest priority sounds first. Work before, and you might see some of these. If I work the guy before, to say B4 at the end of the call sign instead of the state or anything like that. You can enable that. And then you have some other options down here you can configure if you want. I would probably enable these flags because you're going to want to know, let's face it, with the digital modes, especially with the grid chase going on, you're going to be using LOTW. You're already doing electronic stuff. It's making an electronic log on all of this stuff. You might as well use LOTW. Get that instant gratification, you know, with confirming something new. And if you still like getting cards, you're still welcome to send them cards. I know usually most of the expeditions have really nice cards. And they make real good, you know, wall art for your wall of arrogance, which I'm sure we all have with all your awards. I will still send off for a card. And when you do that, you're going to get, you know, you'll send them the money and they'll go ahead and upload it to LOTW a lot sooner than the 6 months typically waiting period before they upload those. You know, they want to get the guys that actually paid the money, all their stuff first. And they're usually really nice cards, and I like them. So you can still send and receive cards even though you use LOTW. So if you like doing that, don't not use LOTW for those reasons, is all I'm saying. You can put some filters in here. I have just gone with the default settings, and this seems to work pretty much for me. QSL memberships, you might want to do some of those. Now logging, so we have it enabled for HRD, and on the confirmations that it reads, I want it to look at cards and LOTW because that's the only stuff you really get DXCC credit for, and everything else with the ARRL. They don't really recognize EQSL. CQ does for some awards, but the ARRL does not. This is pretty much the default frequency. This will actually change the offset from whatever part of the audio spectrum it is into the frequency in your log. Again, these are all the default checks, and that's worked good for me. If you want to play around with those, feel free. They'll ask you so API. All right, JTAlert will, regardless, always send a UDP transmission and put it in this file. So it's creating an ADIF also. JTAlert is. So JTAlert's creating an ADIF. WSJT-X is creating an ADIF. And then you got your logbook, your other logging for that. So, you know, there's several ways. If something messes up, it's there. You're not going to lose everything. So that's nice. Log before database. It's automatically created. I've never really gone back to look at it, but that's for it. So when it queries to see if it's already worked, and that's where you can enable that. DXLab, I have not used any of that. But then if you got, you know, HamQTHs and all that, you can put that in there. Here we are. It's pretty easy. All you need to do is make sure the network server set up in HRD, and it usually is by default because all the other software kind of talks to the same thing, to each other. And if you already got it, WSJT-X working with HRD to control the transmit, then you should have that all set up. But you can work all these other logging softwares. Now, we looked at N1MM, you know, that's in WSJT-X, and I looked a little bit of that up, and you don't get a confirmation that it was actually logged. It just sends it, and then it moves on. So that could be a downfall of that. So if it doesn't get logged, you may not know it. This does pop up a little window that says it was successfully logged. I'll show you some of that. So in the applications, the auto starts. When you start JTAlert, you can have it start WSJT-X, so it's only a one-click deal. Or you can start up to 10 different programs at start or close and all that. So that can be pretty handy. I haven't really used it. WSJT-X, you're going to want that. You're going to want that. I don't think you're going to need to rebroadcast. You can have it bring WSJT-X to the top if any of your alerts and stuff are active, which might be handy if some of that, so you don't have to go hunt for it. Because, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on if you use HRD. There's already 1, 2, 3 applications open, plus WSJT-X, which has 2 windows. So that could be handy. DXLab, all that in there I haven't used. Now, you can have a macros window. I haven't used any of those. You can dock JTAlert, you know, to the window, yada, yada for the macros. The decode history, I don't really do that. I would enable this. That's going to give you this stuff down here, and we'll go over that in a minute. Just kind of gives you band activity so you can look, see what modes and what bands stuff's really going on. Again, the pop-up windows, I kind of like the little bubbles that come up, like the tooltips, rather than another window. Just because there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on anyway. That just seems to work for me. You know, if you might want another window going up, that's fine. You can minimize all this other stuff, you know, and you don't have to have it open. I just like at least having the logbook up so you can, if it's logged, you can also see the log move down. And in the miscellaneous stuff, there's your hotkeys. You can modify these, but, you know, like the display lines, you can do 4. There's a hotkey for that, or 1. If the band's real active, like you see 40 meters is right now, you're going to need more than 2 lines because you'll see a whole bunch of stuff come through, but and all these will be fully populated, but something you're actually looking for in here, you won't see it. So more lines are better than less. If it's kind of quiet, you can shrink that down. And, you know, it also kind of depend on your screen resolution. If you got a low screen resolution, all this stuff's going to take up more space. You may not have room for it. I haven't had to change any of this. This is all standard stuff. That's pretty good. Now the web services, here's your ports. Ham spots. I would recommend sending this. This is just, you know, it's going to help somebody else out, even you. So you can test those. That connects good. So that's for this in spots. And then the ban activity. That's good. And then this is for that text messaging I was talking to you about. You want to test that, make sure that's good. Online logbooks, if you use QRZ or any of these others, it will automatically upload for you. But if you're using HRD, I find it easier, or even any other logbook, find it easier. You get it to a central place and then do it all from there. So that way you're not uploading to, Club Log from your doing CW or any other mode that's going to be in like your other logbook program. You don't have to sort through those. So I don't use any of those. I do use HRD Log to upload to hrdlog.net, and then that will distribute to EQSL and LOTW. We might do a little thing on setting up hrdlog.net to do all that and kind of automate that process. Now we'll upload to them, and it will check it to see if you got any new stuff. But to get it in your log, you're still going to have to manually do a download from those sites. And that's okay. It does it all inside, and it's pretty easy. The online XML callbooks. I found the XML service very handy. I recommend it to pretty much anybody that's really into this. Just because you could get all the information. You punch the call sign in, you get the guy's name, his address, grid square, and all this other stuff. And all those fields are populated in your logbook. So it's all right there. You don't have to go hunting for it. And I think the XML is only about $20 a year. So it's not bad, and it really does help. Now what you're going to do after you get all those set up, now you need to scan your log and rebuild all this so it knows what to look for and all the colors propagate right. This is a maintenance type of task. It needs to be done regularly, probably about every week, or especially anytime you do a download from LOTW or EQSL into your main logbook. You're going to want to scan this so JTAlert can update all of its stuff. So all you do, and I just do all of them. You don't have to do all of them. You can only do the stuff you're specifically looking for, but it's one button rather than having to check all this other stuff. It doesn't take terribly long. I got almost 8,800 records. So that's 8,800 queues in my logbook. And it's not going to take but about 30 seconds. So it's got to load it all. And then it's going to go through, and you probably see some green lines pop up through there. Those are new ones. And as it goes through a lot of stuff, and it does it fairly quickly, I think, for all that it has to do. Some of the inits takes a little bit longer. Boom, there you go. So it's like, under 33 seconds. And then hit OK to apply. Sound card, if you want to use the audio alerts, you need to pick the sound card, but you don't want to use the same one that WSJT-X is using because, one, you won't hear them, and two, they could play on the air depending on how you have your radio set up. You can play the out of shack alerts if you want on specific hours. Yeah, I don't care. Station call sign, you'll need to set that up. You put yours in there in your zones, your grid square, and it'll calculate your Latin lawn if you don't know them. And you can put, if like somebody else in your house, maybe your spouse or the kids or whatever, also are hams and they want to get in and use this, they can. An additional call sign and create the shortcut on your desktop for you. Program updates. It'll give you the latest version, installed version. You may need to run this on occasion just to see if there's a new one. And it gets, JTAlert gets updated pretty regularly. So that's helpful. And then there's the about page. So you get through that, just hit save and okie dokie. Now that we're in this, okay, now we have JTAlert down here. That's where you can turn the sounds on and off. All you gotta do is click. If You can just go to the alerts. You can check all these on and off, and then your filters and all this other stuff. A lot of the stuff we found inside the settings are all right here. You can quick access. And then if you need to scan and update, JTAlert, you can just do scan, log, and rebuild there, and it pops up that message. And we'll ask you, it's going to read the settings data. So still kind of has to read it, but it just gives you this screen, and all the other stuff is minimized. There's the view. I would dock it to the WSJT-X window. I like it at the bottom. You can do it wherever, but for me, I kind of like working at the bottom. You can tick all these want. You can have your text messages windows. There's the stuff, when I've worked, guys, and needed them. You can send all those. So here we are. So you see some of the colors pop up, and then we'll show you, see, like, all right, it's New Jersey. See, I need them. It's a new state on this mode and a new grid on this mode. And it gives you the distance, the bearing, and all of that. So, and this guy here, he's in QSO because you see the decoded. But that's kind of the box that pops up, and I like that. Now this guy, as you see, there's a lot of activity. So, and we kind of need to wait for somebody calling CQ. And you can double click them down here. So we're going to go with this guy here. And boom. Actually, I think I just clicked him once and we start transmitting. Remember to watch your ALC on your radio. And then we'll go through a QSO and you'll show you that confirmation that pops up. I'm running about 80 watts. You see he's way down here, so it changed all this for us. And the thing about calling DX stations on this mode is it's a little, some of them, it's like you'll call and call and call and not get anything. You'll move over to somebody else, and then you'll be halfway through that QSO, and then they'll come back to you. And it's like, oh God, what do you do now? And I don't know why, if they're waiting for it to calm down or whatever, but that gets confusing. All right, so we got this guy. So that's Oman, and we're going to let it sequence through. So we'll be done here in about a minute. And you can set all those colors up. I just went with the default. Sometimes after you get using stuff, if you like colors that stick out better, like over here, the green is stuff I already have confirmed. There's this stuff I need on like the specific band, on that band. All right, there it is. It pops that up, and all you got to do, just like in WSJT-X, which is what we're in, you hit OK, and then boom, success, and it sent it over there, and then that goes away. And you come over here, and boom, there he is, right there, and we already had the QRZ stuff. So we get some additional information. So there you go. And that frequency offset, you see, that's the actual frequency with the audio spectrum. And then you can always just click that and it'll bring all this back up, which is I find really handy. So that's pretty much all you got to do. And it's very easy. Now we can try to send a guy a message. Let's see if you just right click and send message to Callsign, and we'll just ask him. And you see he's online. Let's see if he answers, and that goes away after you hit the send button. And he may answer, he may not. So we'll just see if he answers. It's been a couple of minutes. But it is pretty cool. You'll see all the stuff you need. And this is the band data that we were talking about. You see the colors represent the mode. The JT65 is the green, JT9 is the pink, and the FT8 is the blue. Now, just looking at that, you can tell there's a lot more stuff on FT8 than any other digital mode for the WSJT modes. So that's kind of cool. You can see what's going on what band and see which band's kind of open. Looks like most of the stuff, there's a ton of stuff on 20, 40 seem to be the biggest right now. What's a great mode. And, you know, other than the contests, you can see most everything is FT8. There's the last contest I worked, all the sideband stuff. Forget which one that was. But, you know, all this, it's all been FT8. So that's a great way to rack up for the grid chase, because that's part of the exchange. Only thing I would do, I would adjust these colors for the band activity. Because some of this, like this yellow, you can't really see on the gray. There you go, 128 characters, so it's almost like a tweet. So that'll give you a little quick at a glance, new band. Yeah, it doesn't seem these guys seem to want to answer us. All right, let's see if we can get him to respond. It's taking a little bit and I had to speed this up. There he is. And there you go. We can reply back or not. Whatever you want to do. And there it is, guys. It's that easy. That's JTAlert. I hope you enjoyed it. And the next one, we'll work on something. I'm starting to think maybe HRDlog.net and getting everything set up with that. I think would be pretty helpful for folks. And once you see that, I don't know of a whole lot of people actually using that. So I think that's going to be the plan. See you guys. All right, guys. So that was JTAlert. Let us know what you thought. Send us a comment below. Subscribe to us if you'd like. We surely would appreciate it. If you want to smash it, if that's something you're into, go right ahead. I think that's what the kids are saying these days. Click the little bell icon. You get notified anytime we do an additional video. And we'd love to hear your comments. Is there anything in particular you'd like to see? We can do more of that. I'm thinking at this point, probably the next one's going to be on HRDlog.net. So, which is kind of, will get you into a cloud-based, not really cloud-based, but maybe it kind of is, kind of cloud-based logging. So you would actually have a copy of your log in the cloud that you can access from your web browser or anything like that. Even your phone, your iPhone, your Android. So any web browser, and it'll integrate with Facebook, Twitter, and some other stuff. So it's something I don't think a lot of people are using that could use it and maybe help your workflow out. Anything you can do to be able to get back to playing more radio rather than having to do all the other stuff, you know, the backup stuff and upload logs and all that. HRDlog.net will send to LOTW and EQSL and that type of nature. So, you know, that could help your workflow out. Yeah, so I'm thinking we might do a little bit of that next time. So stay tuned. Thanks for sticking around. I know this one was a little bit longer and probably hard to stay awake, but we're going to be working on that, improving things as we go along. We just appreciate you coming by and helping us out and support. All right, till next time. See ya.